Hey everyone, this is Jen and you're watching BPD Woman. On this channel, you will learn how to more effectively manage your borderline personality disorder, your complex post-traumatic stress disorder, or you'll learn to become more effective managing your emotions if you consider yourself a person who becomes easily emotionally dysregulated or are a highly sensitive person. My aim is to help you achieve your goals, sharing my life experience, treatments, insights after living with borderline personality disorder for 30 years and after being officially diagnosed 20 years ago. I have done multiple rounds of DBT, researched, read books, done workbooks, attended group therapy, one-on therapy, have a YouTube channel. You get it, I'm pretty committed. And while I am not a therapist or a life coach, I can answer one question that most of those folks cannot, which is, what is it like to live with borderline personality disorder? And since I'm able to answer that question, I'm able to give you insights and share nuances and ways to cope that psychologists cannot. And although I'm not a psychologist, I recommend one fully. Let me be a addition to your DBT treatment, because having an expert trained in dealing with borderline personality disorder is really, I would say, 50% of how I was able to recover. And then the other 50 was all up to me. So if you're a family member or someone who's interested in positive approaches to recovery, then you're in the right place, and there's a playlist just for you. I'll throw up the link. If that all sounds good to you, well, hey, please hit subscribe and the bell below so you never miss a beat. I produce anywhere from 3 to 5 videos each week, all something new. So let's get going on today's topic. So today I want to talk about something that everyone these days, it seems more and more, either deals with, experiences, is at the receiving end of, or is at the giving end of. And that is ghosting, ignoring, and other passive-aggressive behaviors. And in this video, I'm not going to talk about how those people with BPD or CPTSD dish out the ghosting or the passive-aggressive behavior or the blocking. I'm going to discuss what it feels like when you are on the receiving end of that, and especially why that can become more emotionally dysregulating and feed into this idea that somehow you are ineffective or damaged, or that you're not good enough, or that you've done something, or that, oh, it's my BPD, they don't want to be with me anymore, and why that mindset can be so dangerous. So let's start talking about that. And I'm going to be highlighting a few of my own experiences that have happened to me this week. And let's go. So I'm going to focus on a few different instances over the past week that or two where people have either blocked me, ghosted me, or just simply not responded to my direct questions. And I want to start with an example that I talked about briefly in a previous video, and you can check that video out on your own. But essentially, I had a difficult conversation with a friend. I didn't know her that well. She was also a client. And I posed questions to her that were hard for her probably to answer, but they were fair questions. And they were questions like, why did you get a vaccine before other people? And the answer is, she's connected with people in the health department. And even though she's not interacting with patients, she's working from home, right? So she could have let someone else go because she touts this equity distribution. And then I also told her that her rollout was flawed and that it would behoove her to listen to constituents who live in the area to give their feedback on how people who are truly suffering and who have actually lost income. She hasn't lost income. She's getting paid the same that she got paid during the start of the pandemic. You know, I've lost 70% of my business and my income, right? So it would behoove her to listen to people who's really being affected by this rollout, right? You know, what does she have to complain? She got a vaccine, right? So the next day I woke up and I had a text that was to the degree of, I don't want to be your friend or your client anymore. Please do not contact me. And I went to hit okay, and she had already blocked me. Okay, well, pretty extreme, but I didn't know her that long. Then a second experience that I had starting last week was a client that essentially has just ghosted me. They haven't been unhappy with me. They haven't said anything that they've been unhappy. They haven't taken down their very positive Google review. But every Sunday I send out invoices, and essentially they say something to the effect of, this is when your payment's due, and I will see you on your scheduled time for the following week. And again, they've been fairly new clients, only maybe about a month or two, maybe a little bit more than that, 2-3 months. And right from the beginning when I met them, like something just felt off. Like, I don't know if she's being abused in the relationship. I don't know. Like, they just seemed very quiet and like looking at the ground, and I don't know, not relatable, not warm, not a lot of thank yous out of them. So it was just something always felt a little bit off. But last week I sent the invoice. She didn't pay the invoice. She didn't follow up with why she didn't pay the invoice. She didn't send me a text that said, hey, we don't have the money right now, we can't hire you. She didn't send anything to the effect of, we're really unhappy with you. I checked my Google reviews. Her Google review is still up. So, there's no indication that I've done anything to make her unhappy, but she's ghosted me. She said nothing. So this Sunday, this was the second Sunday, I didn't send her any invoice, and I don't plan to. Listen, it's not my, well, okay, I'll hold on how I feel and how I handle these situations for the latter part of the video. And then the third instance that I want to talk about is avoidance, okay? So the first one was just like, I block you, you are disavowed. The second instance I told you about was just complete ghosting, okay? No explanation. And then the third instance is about avoidance and just simply ignoring direct questions. So I run a business. I have a relatively new client. They go out of town. I take care of their dogs, and maybe I've had like 3 different individual sittings with them. So he's happy, he keeps hiring me. But I have had very specific questions for him, important questions that affect the ability for me to do my job. And he just decides that he's going to essentially ignore me, ghost me. And so after I have finished my first assignment, I asked him for a review. This is like a couple months ago. He was very happy. Oh, thank you. There was lots of thank yous. Okay. He never wrote a review, right? I was like, it could be short, it could just be 5 stars and we love her, she's great. Okay. Then a month went by, and he reached out to hire me again. And because I hadn't had the review, I was like, I don't know, maybe he doesn't want to hire me again and he's not going to leave me a nice review. But then he reached out for me for a second extended period of time, and I was like, sure, I'm happy to. I was like, by the way, could you please leave me a review? Said nothing. So then when it came time for me to firm up this week's visits, I said, hey, I'm looking forward to seeing them, and by the way, please do the following things for me. Please leave me an emergency credit card in a sealed envelope. That way I can't see the number. In the event I need to use it and run off to the vet if something were to happen with the dogs. One of them is quite elderly, has some mobility issues. And I said, please confirm that this is the parking spot, like this is the door code. And if you could also please leave me a review. Okay, so I said all of this in preparation for them leaving. I don't know where they're going. I'm not sure what time zone. They've left me 0 information. So if his cell phone is out of service, I won't have any way to get a hold of him. I don't even know what state or country he's in, although I kind of got a revelation of that today. So I said, okay, I said all this off, and his reply back to me was like, great, we're excited to have you watch the dogs. That was it. Didn't answer my repeated question about a review, didn't acknowledge about the credit card, and didn't really, confirm anything. Now, I'm a dog owner, I'm a pet owner. When I go out of town, I'm like, here's a 40-page PDF. This is how you reach me. This is my backup. This is my emergency contact. Here's the emergency credit card number. Like, anything you need, get a hold of me, right? I want to make it easy for them as possible. You're taking care of my animals, So he didn't reply. Today, I had a very uncomfortable situation with his neighbor who called 911 on me because I was illegally parked on the street. Not in front of a hydrant, street parking, because I don't have a permit pass to park in their lot. And I was walking the dogs, minding my own business, and this guy, no mask, in a blue BMW, starts like like accosting me, like I'm ruining his neighborhood. He's calling 911. I was like, go ahead, man, call him. Like, I don't fucking care. Like, I know people on that police department. Like, you know, be fine with me. He did. He called them. The guy came out. The police officer came out. You know, he thought it was a stupid situation. And he's like, the only reason I'm here is that it's a Sunday. If this was like any other day, he's like, we're really busy. We wouldn't bother with this bullshit. Okay. So I tried again to get in contact with this owner. I put out like 3 phone calls. I texted, you know, I was like, listen, this is going on. This has made me feel really uncomfortable. Listen, people are really stressed out right now. You don't know who's got a weapon in their car. You know, there was that instance in Pennsylvania where the neighbors got in a disagreement about snow. Guy came out, shot the neighbors with an AR-15, went inside, blew his own head off, you know. Lady Gaga's dogs got kidnapped. The guy got shot. I mean, there's all kinds of fucking crazy out there right now. So, all right, so these are these situations, right? So in all of these situations, each one of them had me feeling a bit dysregulated. Why? Let's keep talking. If you have borderline, okay, or you have low self-esteem, you often have this idea about yourself that you're not worthy. No one wants to be your friend. People are going to leave you. You're defective. People know you're defective. You worry about the things you say, the way you interact. You reread your texts. You ponder over your interactions over and over. Like, you can spend a lot of time and really wear yourself out worrying and ruminating about these issues. And I've produced a video on rumination, so I will put up a link for that. So it's almost the default thing that I've always found myself doing for most of my life is, this happened and it's gotta be because of me. And it's gotta be because of my BPD. You absorb whatever fault or issue that is, right? Well, now with time, now with age, now with the practice of my skills, I am still dysregulated. However, the time of dysregulation is smaller. The dysregulation episode, or what I might call a BPD episode, and I've done a video for that, so check that out if you wish, is shorter. It's less intense. It no longer disrupts my entire day. It no longer makes me usually burst into tears or become so exhausted that the rest that I can do for the day is just emotionally and physically repair myself. It does not necessarily take me to this place of, you're a junky person, what did you do wrong? No, okay? Now, again, I know that this takes time to be able to get in a place to say, nope, that's not my damage. Nope, that's not my fault. Nope, that's not my fault. He can't be a grown-up. That's not how this is working. No. So, how did I get there? What do I see about these situations? How do I deal with these situations now? Well, now what I have told myself repeatedly, it's something that I put on my daily iPhone calendar. It's think less about what other people think about you and be more cognizant of what you think about you, okay? So that means, do I like myself? I do. How do I continue to like myself? I do the right thing. I stick to my ethics. I show up when I say I'm gonna show up. I try to be fair. I stand up for myself. I don't let people walk all over me. I defend myself. I will stand my ground. You know, like just today, I was walking my dog, and I was crossing out of this small development that we normally cross over. So in fact, I usually walk back there because it's just a quieter area and there's less traffic. And I saw an SUV come in, going about 30. Just bolt through a stop sign, and I literally had to throw my dog behind me and bang on her hood and be like, yeah, it's a fucking stop sign. She was indignant. She was pissed that I had the audacity to defend myself, even though she was literally mere inches from hitting me. I kicked the side of her fucking door. I'm not afraid to tell you. So I'm saying here is that I no longer think that people can get away with their bad behavior and that I deserve it, or that I have brought it upon myself. No. You know, there is a lot of complexity in trying to get to that space, like, who am I? Was this my fault? Especially when your idea of reality or your perceptions have been skewed or, malaligned by a narcissist or your parents, or just years of programming, like you are the reason, you are the reason, you are the reason, you are the reason, right? Like you've gotten in these tapes, these distortions that it's all your fault. Okay, so then you go to DBT and you learn skills like interpersonal effectiveness and give, and you learn about emotional dysregulation. And slowly but surely over time, if you stick with it and you make it work for you and you do the work, okay, I did a lot of work, then you get to a place where you're like, now, hey, wait a minute here. Is this my mess or is this your mess? Am I being the child or are you acting like the child? Did I do something wrong or did you do something wrong, right? Like I know when I've done something wrong. Like I know because I feel really dysregulated. I don't feel good about myself. I want to hide the phone, right? But when I've stuck up for myself, then I'm tuned into a feeling of mastery. I feel at ease. I don't feel like I need to go lay down. I feel like I can get on with the rest of my day. I don't make 42 phone calls, right? All in a row. So that's where I've gotten to that place. Now, how did I handle these last few instances? Well, let me tell you. So in each of these three situations that I've talked about, so the blocking, the ghosting, and like the straight up just ignoring my questions, they were dysregulating to me. I was like, who does that? Like, I did think like, oh, I'll never have any friends momentarily, not long term. I did not hold on to that for very long. You begin to kind of think quickly. I thought quickly like, okay, did I do anything wrong here? Did I say anything that wasn't true? Was my perception fair? I played my voice note for one person, who gave me some rational feedback that they thought it was fine. And today, when all this stuff happened, I became very dysregulated. Like it was super upsetting on a Sunday morning to be walking two dogs, elderly dogs, to have some stranger start following me in their car, telling me I'm ruining their neighborhood and they're gonna call 911. And then this fear of like I'm gonna get towed or something's gonna happen, and then having to explain myself to a police officer. That's all very stressful. And so how did I handle it? Well, when that police officer came, I was like, I'm really glad you're here because I would like to tell you about how I was verbally accosted and harassed by this person. I played the cop a video of the incident. I showed him his license plate. I showed him a picture of him. I asked him if he would go talk to him about his behavior. You know what the cop said? The cop basically was like on my side. He's like, look, I'm only here to show my face. This is a Sunday. We don't even reply to noise disturbances anymore. He's like, normally this would just be straight up parking enforcement. He's like, he didn't care. He didn't give me a ticket. I wasn't blocking a fire lane. We had a good rapport. I explained myself rationally. I stated the facts and I told him what was what. Now, what if I had lost my shit on the guy that was ignoring me, right? Like, what if I was yelling and then I was upset? Then I most likely would not have been in a regulated state where I could access my cognitive abilities and my good judgment, my effective judgment to explain this to this police officer. And then how would that have turned out, right? Okay. So then when I couldn't get a hold of the owner, I was like, am I being ghosted? Like, what's happening? Well, it turns out he's like in 12 hours in a different time zone. So he's probably in Asia somewhere. He finally got back to me like 3 hours later. But in the interim, I was like, okay, I'm going to call my friend. Okay, no, but that friend is a client. Okay, well, I don't want to burden her. And then like we had this short, conversation, me and my friend. She was like, she's a client. She was like, I don't know. She's like, you don't have to feel weird if you want to talk about it. I was like, no, I feel weird. Like, I'm sorry. And I was like, never mind. She's like, but I'm happy to talk. I was like, I appreciate it. And then like I left it at that because I knew that if I kept talking about this instance or this situation repeatedly, I was going to get more dysregulated and more spun up, right? So what I said to myself was, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to think of a solution on my own. Let me get regulated. Let me think.
what is the best course of action? And I ran through it. You know, initially I wanted to be like, I'm not going to walk these dogs anymore. This guy doesn't respect my information. He doesn't respect my ability to do my job. I can't live up to the standards of safety if I don't have an emergency credit card, if I don't know where you are, if I can't get a hold of you. I mean, you know, and then these repeated ignoring. I was like, this is just not somebody that I want to deal with, right? Like, you can take that shit over to WAG, or, you know, like, you can find Rover, you can go to some other person, but that's not me. That's not how I roll. And so I've already sort of been formulating this decision, and I was like, okay, well, I don't want, if he decides to leave me a review, I don't want it to be shitty. So I need to be mindful of the words that I'm going to put in my text to him. And I'm going to be thinking of what's the best course of action. I could just not show up and avoid the situation altogether. That is one choice. I am a bit intimidated by this crazy guy who thinks it's okay to follow me around in his car and then abuse 911 for an illegal parking issue. Okay. I wasn't blocking anyone, by the way. I wasn't in front of a fire hydrant. I wasn't, you know, anyway. He's nuts, right? But then I was like, okay, well, I don't want to put this guy in a bind, my client. I want the dogs to be taken care of. So I came to a decision that instead of me spending 30 minutes at each visit, I was going to refund part of his money and I was going to drop it down to a 20-minute visit. And that will lessen the amount of time I have to be parked on the street, and that will lessen the likelihood that I will have an interaction with that asshole. Okay. Now, the decision I came to that was to reserve and preserve my business, my name. Like, what if I just like went off and canceled on him and then he wrote that in a, you know, review? We were in a different country and then there was a drama with a neighbor and she left us in a lurch. That's not going to look good to potential clients, right? So even though I have like 20 other like 5-star reviews, I just don't need that trouble. So I was like, okay, I'm going to finish this up. I'm going to be vigilant. I'll carry my stun gun and my mace with me. I'll be ready to defend myself should it come to that, but I will finish this up. And then going forward, I'm about 95% sold I will not be taking on this client again. It's just too much hassle. In the instance with the woman that just simply ghosted me, the client, the way that I handled that was, okay, that's fine, you know? I feel good about my service. I feel good about my report cards. I feel like the standard that I give consistently, I hear that this is the best service we've ever had. Like, you know, these report cards are so thorough. Thanks for caring for our dogs or our cats or our fish or whatever, you know. I didn't do anything wrong. And if you can't be an adult enough to say, hey, we can't afford it, or we need to skip for a while, well, guess what? That's your problem. Like, you fucked up. Like, I'm great. Like, I know what I'm talking about. Like, their dog's a puppy and it's had no training and it's becoming a real handful. You know, I don't know what the situation is, but the point is that you tell someone, you own your grown, as they say, and she didn't want to do that. Okay, fine, goodbye. Like, you know, we're getting vaccines in our arms, you know, economy's starting to open back up. In the next 6 months, my business will hopefully take off where it was a year and a half or a year ago before the pandemic started. And with the woman that blocked me and that didn't want to be my friend anymore, how do I handle that? Well, I simply say, well, again, own your grown. If you aren't comfortable having a grown-up discussion or a hard discussion or absorbing constructive criticism, then yeah, you're probably not the friend for me either. And the fact that she blocked me, what does that show? Fear, an unwillingness to engage or be challenged on her beliefs. You know, I didn't call her names. I didn't make threats, you know. Okay, so that's how I handle these situations. So knowing all of this, then, why do people ghost or avoid or become passive aggressive? And how can you prevent it from internalizing and dysregulating you? Let's talk about that in this next part of the chapter. So what does it feel like? And how can you stop being dysregulated or lessen the amount of time or the intensity of your dysregulation if someone is ghosting you or not answering your questions or blocking you? Well, the first thing that I recommend is to always be taking a positive, reflective, truthful inventory of who you are, and to be living up to the ethics and standards that you wish to live by. So again, that means, just like I said a few moments ago, I'm where I say I'm going to be. I don't say anything to hurt people. I stick to my promises. I work to the best of my abilities. I'm truthful, right? If I'm doing all of these things, then I'm like, yep, I feel pretty good about myself. None of this comes down to me. This is not about Jen or Jen's BPD or Jen's behavior. This is unrelated. I don't know why they're blocking me or ghosting me, but they are. That goes to tip number 2, which is, again, that ambiguity, that sitting and waiting. It's really difficult. It's so hard to sit and wait. Like those 3 hours that I was waiting for that client to call me back, I was like, what's happening? How dare he? I was getting a little bit dysregulated, and it got to the point where I did take the phone off, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna pet my dog, I'm gonna take a nap, I'm gonna watch a TV show, right? Distract myself. But that second tip is that you have to sit in the ambiguity, and you have to say, I don't know what this is about, but I know it's not about me. And it may be about you, and that's fine. Okay. A lot of people aren't going to like you in life. So how many people do you not like in life? I don't like quite a few people that I come across, right? Like there's very few people that I want to stick in my life as a friend, or that, like, even with my clients, not every client that like walks the door is like got a golden ticket to stay forever. Like, no, like that's why I left the corporate world, so I didn't have to entertain that bullshit. You must be a good, decent person that pays me on time and respects me. Otherwise, hit the road, Jack, okay? And then the third tip is to distract. So these aren't new tips. Like I say these all the time, live up to who you want to be. You must stay in that gray zone ambiguity. And the third being that you just must distract yourself in times when you're beginning to be dysregulated. Again, I've used this expression, when emotion is high, logic is low. What does that mean? Well, it means when you're upset, you're not thinking clearly. And if you're not thinking clearly, then you're bound to make a decision that you will regret or that will cause you further emotional dysregulation. So just stop. That's a skill. I've made a video, the stop skill. Stop what you're doing, take a step back, observe mindfully, and proceed mindfully. You don't want to get yourself into a conundrum, right? That guy wasn't ignoring me. He was 12 time zones away and likely sleeping. I still should have had an emergency backup phone number for him, and but hey, okay. And then the fourth thing is, okay, be prepared. Be prepared for whatever the fallout may be. Okay, she's not going to be my client anymore. She's going to ghost me. Okay, well, I'm not giving you any power. I'm taking your power. You are removed from my calendar. I will not be sending you further invoices, and do not ever contact me again, because I will not be taking you on as a client. Why? Because you're disrespectful, right? I've held your time for a week. We have a standing agreement. You decided you're not going to pay me anymore and not explain why. Well, then don't be surprised if I don't offer you the same courtesies in return, okay? That guy doesn't want to leave me his phone number. That guy doesn't want to leave me an emergency credit card. Okay, well, that doesn't make me feel good. That brings a certain of anxiety to my job and insecurity about safety, which is what I pride myself on, that I don't need. And let's say his dog did break their leg, right? And now I can't get a hold of him. And I don't have an emergency credit card. Who's going to pay for that? I'm not going to pay for that. I don't have the money to pay for that. It's not my job to do that. It's not my job to pay for that, unless I was negligent, right? No vet is going to start fixing your dog. Do you have a dog? Have you ever taken them to the vet? If it's an emergency, they want that credit card information up front. They're not going to treat a $20,000 vet bill and then like not have a credit card in file, right? So again, and you're not even leaving me a review. Well, okay, again, this is more stress I don't need to deal with, so I'm prepared to not take him on as a client anymore. So that's being prepared. Okay, so that's a little bit about, and and finally, just like, I guess as a fifth, is just working on that self-esteem. And again, this is not something that's new. I've been repeating this for a while. Working on your self-esteem. Go back to the I love me list that you've made for yourself. Here are the things that I like about me. Do an inventory. I do this well. I do this. 90% of my clients love me. Not, okay, two people ghosted me and don't want to talk to me, but like 10 other people do, right? I'm going to work on my project today. That's going to make me feel better about myself. Those are ways to kind of take you out of this mindset that you might potentially be bogged down in, that you're shitty, it's all your fault, you're defective, BPD. And instead you're going to be like, hey, I accomplished this. Hey, I reached out to this person. Hey, I used opposite action. And that's just going to keep giving you a greater sense of, well, an ass-kicking mentality. So why do people ignore and ghost and be passive-aggressive then? Well, let's explore. Speaking from my own experience, when I have blocked someone, which is something that I try not to do anymore, when I block someone or when I have stopped talking to them, generally it's because I was afraid. I was afraid to have a conversation. I was afraid to see their reply pop up in my phone. I was afraid to get further confirmation that they would say something like, well, you're crazy, I don't like you. It was fear. It was a lot of fear. And I think a lot of people do block or ghost out of fear. Is it bullshit? Yeah, I think it's bullshit. It's one thing to block someone who's harassing you, who is texting you, who's verbally abusing you, who is an ex or a parent or someone else on your do not contact list that keeps trying to contact you. Yes, then it's fine. Block them. Protect yourself. Do not allow yourself to be harassed or stalked. Do everything in your power to avoid that. But if it's just something like a friendship falling out, there's no need to block someone. And in fact, I challenge you not to block them, because it's more difficult to sit with that uncomfortability. But in the 2 or 3 days, you'll see, hey, I didn't block them. My world did not end. And it's given me some power that, like, I feel okay enough to see whatever one of your texts comes through, and that will be okay. Another reason why people block or ghost or passive aggressive is because they're non-confrontational man or woman childs. That's why. If someone asks you a question, you reply. If someone brings a situation to your attention, you engage. If someone is your friend, you're there for them. If someone is your boss, you report to them, right? You have self-accountability. Well, not everyone wants to have self-accountability, or people go through life avoiding or being passive-aggressive or not answering your questions because they're afraid of conflict, or they're afraid to stand up for themselves, or perhaps they think they will lose something in the transaction, right? Like if he says, hey, I don't have an emergency credit card, perhaps he thinks that I'm not going to watch his dogs anymore. That's not true. I'm more likely not to watch his dogs anymore for the very fact that he is avoiding me point blank on multiple questions, right? So people have like this idea that I'm not going to be accountable. And the third reason is, I'm just going to label this explanation the question mark. We don't know. We don't know why they do it. Maybe they are very ill. Maybe, they don't feel good about themselves. Maybe their phone dropped in a sewer and they don't have your number anymore. Maybe, there was this guy a while back on a dating website, and I had messaged him and we liked each other, but he never replied to me. I sent him a thoughtful email and he never replied. And it just out of the blue, it just ghosted me. I have no idea what happened. And then maybe a year later, he liked me and he messaged me again. And I was like, okay, this guy again. All right, let me go out with him. So during the dinner that we had together, I said, hey, by the way, about a year ago, I liked you, you liked me, I sent you a message, I never heard anything, what happened? And he was like, oh, my dad died around that time. Boom, right? So that's that question mark. You don't know. Maybe someone has had a super big family emergency. You just don't know. So ways to deal with this and not become emotionally dysregulated yourself are, again, wait for the information to come in. If you feel that you have done your best grown-up version possible, you have been there and how you want to show up to life, then don't worry about it. Okay? If that person doesn't want to be making time for you, then you don't want to be making time for them. I mean, do you? Do you want to be a part of someone's life who doesn't want you around? Think about that. I used to. Oh, if you like me, that validates me. Oh, if you like me, that means I'm a better person. Oh, if you like me, that means something. Hey, tell me, you're the expert on me. You tell me more about my life than me. Nah, brah. Nah. No. But it can be dysregulating. Why? Because you don't know, right? And then you're waiting and you're wondering and you want the problem or the drama to be solved immediately. And that can be stressful in of itself. So I understand. I used to lose a whole day of worrying. I used to block people. I used to send a flurry of texts like, I'm blocking you, fuck you, don't you ever contact me again, right? And I left a lot of destruction on my path. And none of those things really panned out for me. They may have made me feel safe in the moment. You can't contact me again, you're blocked. But now, if I need to block someone, it's because I know it's not healthy for me. And it's not because I need to run away because I feel I've done something wrong. And just as a final wrap up here, you know, when I went through DBT, I thought, well, now that I'm in DBT and I have all of these skills and I can communicate effectively with people, everyone will be my friend and all my problems will be solved and everyone will act like an adult. The truth is that just because I thought that would solve all my problems, but the truth is that just because you learn some new effective communication skills and you could effectively communicate it 100%, like you could be the role model, grand poobah, jam master Jay of communicating, other people just simply won't engage and that'll have nothing to do with you, or they'll gauge erroneously, or they'll engage ineffectively, or they'll engage negatively. Okay, just because you're effective doesn't mean that they're going to be. And that's why it's important to build up on your self-esteem so that you tell yourself, this has nothing to do with me, this has nothing to do with me. I mean, it's hard to do in the moment and it's hard to combine all of these skills all at once, but the key here is that keeping at it over time, you'll find that one day you can be standing here and say, okay, that was troubling, but I handled it and I didn't cut and I didn't drink and I didn't cry and I didn't self-destruct and I didn't burn any relationships and I'm okay. But that takes a long time. My name's Jen. You've been watching BPD Woman. Please hit like, share, subscribe, comment below. Tell me what you think. You know, how has it felt for you? Have you been ghosted? Have you been ignored? You know, how does that make you feel more invalidated or sometimes more validated, you know? Thanks again. Until I speak with you next time, in everything you do, please be effective.